everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm experimenting with the vlog format for the first time in a really long time, and I also want to test kind of doing voiceovers, which is something I've never done before. So this is going to be a fun little experiment. I've also been just in the weirdest mental space lately. I've been following this whole kind of TikTok shutdown, people migrating to Red Note, and the ban happened for like less than a day. It was so bizarre, and I was following the whole thing, and it's just been such an interesting media historical moment, and I'm sure there's gonna be more to come from all of this. Two things that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and the first one is kind of processing the fact that there are 8 billion people in the world, because in my head the world has always been a small place. People always say it's a small world, and then when I talk to people about big figures or something, we all kind of have the same common knowledge. You know, like if I say, oh, you know, like Elon Musk or Isaac Newton or something, like people have the same sort of few names in their head, so then you feel like the world is somewhat smaller. And maybe because I'm in like little niche communities, it just feels smaller. But I recently processed the fact that just to count all of the people in the world, like not by name, not knowing anything about them, just going like boop, 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 like one person per second, just like counting them, to count to 8 billion would take me 253 years, I think, or something like that. Just to count all of the people in the world. I can't really conceptualize that. I don't know why, but I always just felt like there was a chance that one day I might get to know all of the people or read all of the people, or, you know, and then just processing that has done two things. The first one is it's kind of made life a little bit kind of chiller, I guess, because I want to not feel so intimidated and like things aren't that big a deal. So just do what you want. Have fun. It doesn't really matter. There's so many people out there. Like, you're just one amongst the many. Like, it's fine. There's nothing to be worried about. So it's kind of like liberating in some way. The second is this kind of feeling like you have to be more selective with what you read. Coming to terms with the fact that I will never be able to read all of the books that I want, that there's simply not enough time, and there are many, many classics in every country and every place in the world, and I have to be able to refine it a bit better, to have both moments of exploration but also following things that I love, and to balance that somehow. I think it's very difficult, because for a really long part of my life, I think I've wanted to know what's out there, to see what I like, and then like whatever step I take, I'm like, oh, that seems cool. Like, oh, a squirrel, I want to learn about squirrels. Oh, mushrooms, that sounds fun. Like, oh, weird fiction, that's amazing. Pirates, that sounds so cool. And then I just keep following this thread where I just love a lot of things, and they're just so exciting to me. And at no point have I had this like Disney moment of like, I found my calling and I found my passion, and this is the one thing I'm really interested in. The second thing that's been keeping me up at night is this concept of the death of the author and separating the artist from the art. And I've always said on this channel that, you know, like I always try to take things into like historical context, kind of assess it, but I do kind of have filters when there are authors that have done sort of bad things, especially recently. And for me, my filter has been if this person was ever in a position of power to abuse the thing that he or she has been accused of. That was kind of my thinking in advance, like before I'm gonna introduce this thought. And then someone said, and I can't stop thinking about this, if you are able to separate the art from the artist, then you should have no problem reading novels written entirely by AI. Why does that feel different? And then I thought, oh, well, is it because art can only be an expression of being human, and machines or artificial intelligence cannot express itself, so therefore it's like, what is art? And like, it's the question of what is art that makes it human, so then like I need to know that the novel came from a human versus AI. And I don't know, it just like opened this whole new world of like what I think about a work of art when I put it in that context. if we are truly able to separate the art from the artist in this circumstance. Seeing Nosferatu over the holidays was definitely a highlight. I thought it was very visually striking, and I loved the setting in Romania and what it showed about vampires. The casting was perfect. It was such a perfect retelling of both Dracula and Nosferatu. I didn't think it brought too much new to the lore of vampires, but it was a good retelling, though a little long. And as you will be able to see, I did go to a lot of bookstores. I always find the coolest pamphlets here of really famous authors that I didn't even know existed, and they're usually pretty affordable. It doesn't really break the bank here, but they always have a cooler assortment of things. This publication features essays about letterpress printing and bookbinding. I wrote an essay for them for their very last issue, so it was kind of cool to find these backlog ones. The same bookstore has a back room that is filled with rare books, and these ones do break the bank. These are thousands of dollars. I mean, obviously it depends on what it is, but a lot of these are a bit out of most people's price range, but it's always nice to look at them. They're what I would call aspirational. And of course the occult section has the coolest things. When I went home at my parents' house, I got together with a lot of my cousins and my friends and my sister, and we decided to fixate on this Bridgerton puzzle that was 1,000 pieces, and we finished it in 3 hours. At the Toronto Reference Library, they have an exhibition right now focusing on the costumes in the TV show Anne with an E, based on L.M. Montgomery's book Anne of Green Gables. And whenever I go to the reference library, I always make a point to also go upstairs to see the Sherlock Holmes room. This is the Inhabit Books bookstore that features mostly indigenous literature, specifically from the north in Inuktitut, or it's mostly in English, but it also has dual language publication, and often it's for young children, but I really like to check it out pretty often. It's really beautiful in there. Might look like all I do is look at books, and that is true. These are facts. So this bookstore has a lot of science fiction and fantasy books, and a lot of pulpy sci-fi from the olden days, and the decorations in here are just superb. It's just a nice environment to be in. So I'm going to show you what I got for Christmas. Most of these were on my wish list and they were specifically requested. All of my Christmas presents are around me right now and I'm going to show them to you. So this one is a Norwegian classic. The author Sigrid Undset has won the Nobel Prize in Literature, and this is called Kristin Lavransdatter. And this is a 14th century epic set in Norway. I'm really excited. I love reading about Scandinavian settings in general. Love Iceland and Norway specifically. This is gonna be very cool to read, but it's ginormous. The Haunted Wood, A History of Childhood Reading by Sam Laith. These were both from my mother-in-law, and this one is a non-fiction book about children's literature. I love reading books like that, kind of like non-fiction takes on the influence of children's literature, the history of children's literature, and readership. So this is a new one. I read two before that I've really enjoyed. One of them was called From Aesop to Harry Potter, and the other one was called Enchanted Hunters, which I've repped on this channel so many times. So this is the newest addition to that vibe of nonfiction. Really excited to get to this. Hopefully it will add some new things and have some new takes on children's literature. Then from my husband, I got Lonesome Dove. I told him that I'm very interested in reading this because, I don't know, I feel like I want to read a good cowboy book just once, you know? A really good cowboy book. And everyone recommends this one. And I thought, you know, why not? Like, let me give it a go. So I requested this. I think this is the third in a series, but everyone says you can read it without reading the other ones, and that this is amazing. It got the Pulitzer Prize in Literature, so really excited to get to this eventually. Hopefully it's got good adventure in there. Now this one I requested because I don't know, I was in a mood. This is called The Mezzanine by Nicholson Baker, and my understanding is that this is kind of looking at the world through new eyes, or trying to take things in as if you've never seen them before. It's also kind of a novel about nothing, about sustained boredom and the meaninglessness of life. It's kind of a modern classic in the same way that Revolutionary Road is. So I was really intrigued. It's pretty tiny, but it also has those kind of footnotes the same way that Infinite Jest has, where you have like the main text is kind of a paragraph and then the footnotes take up a whole page. I think this is going to be a slow burn, even though it's the shorter of the books I've shown you. I think it's going to be more reflective. It's a lot of introspection. Sorry for the noise in the background. I'm doing laundry right now. And the last thing my husband got me, which I requested, was the illustrated Varney the Vampire, a romance of exciting interest, freshly typeset with the original woodcut illustrations. So this is newly printed. It's not vintage, but it's got legible writing, which is so nice, because sometimes I order these books that are new prints of older editions and the writing is so small or it's so obviously misprinted that it makes me so angry I can't read them, and then I just have them on my shelf and they're not rare, they're not legible. But this seems really good in terms of format. I've been seeing some people in my weird fiction circle talk about Varney the Vampire, specifically around Victober, and it's piqued my interest. I want to read about Varney as well, but I'm not gonna wait for a special occasion to dive into Victorian literature or vampires. I think I want to live as if every day is October. October is the best month of the year, so I mean, look at these illustrations, they're so cool. Whatever's happening here, I'm all for it. Now, I recently went to see Wicked, the musical, and I got re-interested in Oz a little bit, and I've wanted to dive into the Oz books. I don't know how I want to tackle it, but basically there's a two-part to this, where first I asked my sister to get me the boxed set of all the Oz books. So now each book has at least several of the Oz books, so you can read them together. I haven't even taken it out of the plastic. Woo. Okay, so beautiful cover, and inside you have several books. So if you open a third of the way, you have the second book, and so on. I've had this before, is the funny thing. I bought this exact set before, and one of my really good friends came over, and she was obsessed at the time. So I was like, okay, if you want this, you can have it. My gift to you. And she cherished it, and she read them, and she was just very, very happy. And I never repurchased them, but now I have them, and I'll never give them away because these are for my sister now. In line with this, I got this facsimile. I couldn't walk away from this facsimile. I got it from a rare bookstore, and they did have some older copies of Oz, though not the first editions. But then they had this facsimile of the first edition, but this facsimile was printed in 1987. So it's still old despite it being a facsimile. But I just wanted to have one older looking Oz book, and I wanted to see what the original illustrations were like in its first edition. Again, facsimile here. I cannot get the original, but it's so cute. It's gonna be fun. But this one I got for myself because why not? And the other book that I got for myself, and this was from a science fiction bookstore, is the biography or memoir of Frederick Pohl, The Way the Future Was. And it's got this cute, like, vintage sci-fi vibes. He's a great science fiction writer, and I believe he was married to Judith Merrill, who is one of Canada's best sci-fi authors, or women sci-fi authors. Even though she was born in America, she came here, and then they named the rare science fiction book library after her. So we have the Merrill collection of rare sci-fi or speculative fiction, and Pohl was married to Merrill, and together they both wrote sci-fi. I was interested in this one, not only because I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to find this anywhere else. Like, it looks so cool, and it's definitely vintage. It's first edition. But what got my attention was the historical time period of sci-fi that it captures, because it says on the inside flap that in it you will find what Isaac Asimov was like at 19, the truth behind the Great World SF Convention War of 1939, how a teenager became a mover and shaker of the bizarre world of the pulp magazines, the strange mating rites of the SF community, and how to represent most of the best of writers go broke. So it sounds like there's some spicy SFF drama going on here. I'm here for it. I'm all about the SFF community, and I dabble. You know, I don't know if I'm 100% part of it because I'm in and out of so many different little SF things. I'm definitely more in the weird fiction genre right now, for sure. But I'm very pumped to read this. And the last book I got is actually from a publisher. So this was sent to me for free. And it's called Merpeople, A Human History by Von Scribner, which is such a great author name. But this is about people of the sea, merpeople. Humans have been fascinated by merpeople since ancient times, from the sirens of Homer's Odyssey to Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid. Myths, stories, and legends of half-human, half-fish creatures abound. Laundry's done. So these are all the books I got for Christmas. I will say that in January it's also my birthday, so I either need to think of something else rather than getting more books, because I'm starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed because I need to read these. I mean, if you really look at these, this could take me the entire year of 2025 just in this little haul. So we are now in like the middle of January, maybe it's even the end, I can't really tell. There's like 10 days left of the month. And I am gonna tell you about something I've actually read, so that's exciting. But I wanted to share two more bookish fun things with you. So the first one is actually another book that I got. So this is a book I got in the mail, and it's one of the British Library Tales of the Weird, and it's called Spirits of the Season, Christmas Hauntings. And this book was sent to me by Roy and Dr. Jenny from the channel Roy Reads Anything, and with a really cool literary card as well with the plays of Oscar Wilde. And I think this was intended to arrive for Christmas, and I know that Roy planned this out in such a way, but the Canadian Post was on strike for most of December, as some of you might know. And then this didn't arrive to me until very recently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this for this upcoming December in 2025. So it's kind of nice to know that I have something really exciting to look forward to during the Christmas season, because you might know, I don't really like Christmas and the whole Christmas spirit, but I do like the ghosts of Christmas and the hauntings of Christmas and creepy Christmas stuff. So this will be fun. But thank you so much, Roy. And I'm definitely going to link his channel down below. He is among one of my favorite people here on BookTube. And the other thing I wanted to share, this is kind of a work thing, but after the holidays, I went back to work and we recently got this really cool acquisition. It was a donation from an artist. The artist's name is Anne Baskove. She is from New York. A lot of her artwork is at the Norman Rockwell Museum. And she has so much art in her life, like beautiful paintings. I've been Googling her nonstop. I'm addicted. She's just wonderful. But one of the things that she's illustrated most, or at least is very popular, are the covers of Canadian author Robertson Davies. Now, if you've seen books that kind of look like this, you will recognize that this is like the standard Robertson Davies book. A lot of these were printed, like hundreds and hundreds of copies of each one of these books, and it's kind of like a unifying thing that brings all of the Davies books together. And she recently sent me, at the library where I work, all of her original woodcuts that she carved when she made the originals for the book covers back in the day. And she met Robertson Davies herself. She said that he was so popular at the peak of his career that people in New York would actually run after his car to chase him down because he was such a big celebrity. And it was just such a cool moment to hold in my hand, this like piece of history that came from the United States to Canada, and to see this like huge collaboration happening between artists, and to just like see the originals. But also it's just kind of fun because a lot of them are carved in the same block of wood, rather than, you know, having individual blocks for each one. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. I will definitely be making more official and bigger videos about this on my professional library YouTube channel, which I'll link down below as well. But you can find me there where I'll talk more about like the actual rare items at work. And with that, I'm going to tell you about the book that I have been reading. So, a book that you saw earlier today in this vlog was Kristin Lavransdatter. I'm now getting better at pronouncing things. First of all, I am in love with this author already. I can already sense this will be among my favorites. But the reason this book is so chunky is because it's not just one book. This is a trilogy. So I've already finished book 1.5, or a quarter of the second book. And I'm definitely going to save until I finish it all the way through and do just like a one proper review of the whole thing, rather than tell you bit by bit. But it is something that I'm working on and chipping away at it slowly. I'm on page 431. I'm really, really loving this. It's set in a very small village in Norway in the 14th century. And we follow Kristin. And so far, this book is definitely a Bildungsroman. We follow her from early childhood into adulthood. And it's almost like seeing the 3 stages of womanhood, from like maiden, mother, crone kind of vibes, you know? And there's a lot of drama and small village gossip and traumatic events that lead to her going to a monastery. There's an intense love triangle and a lot of things happening, religious undertones. Again, I'm gonna save more of the official review for when I talk the whole thing through. I want to give myself time to not just finish it, but I want to think about it. Anyway, I think this vlog is already too long, so I'm going to end it here. But thank you for watching if you've made it this far. And yeah, I will see you in a future video sometime soon. Bye!